And this is Willow Talk. Liam Flanagan here, and I'm joined by a man who spent 66 tests behind the stumps for Australia in the baggy green, Brad Haddin. Hads, as I listen back to that, I got all the tingles all over again.
Yeah, and I don't think it's going to get any better this test match. But one thing I noticed about that, what about Gussie Worland?
Well,
he's got all the big moments of that test match, and that's exactly what he wanted. We've got him in the team for all those big moments, and he did not disappoint.
Well, you talk about Scott Boland, man of the match, and we'll get to his efforts. But really, the man of the match was this gentleman who joins us down the line on the phone, Gus the Voice Worland.
Oh, come on. That was awesome. That was so great, wasn't it? And, I'm just sad that I can't be in the studio with you boys. This bloody COVID has knocked me for six.
What's happened, mate? You've been struck down, haven't you?
Yeah, so the game finished really quickly in Melbourne. Went down and spent some time with my cousin down at Point Lonsdale, just past Geelong. And actually, I felt pretty good, but everyone around me was getting knocked down like 10 pins. And got back to Sydney, and my kids are all going overseas, so they said to get a rapid test before I got in the house, and it came up inconclusive. Then the next day it came up positive, and now I'm in a queue at Mona Vale Hospital trying to get one of these sort of better tests, I suppose, whatever they're called, the PCRs. And at the moment, I'm out of the Sydney test match, which is absolutely shattering, absolutely off the back of obviously what we've done this summer and how much I've loved being part of the Triple M team.
How are you feeling? Are you okay? Because we know some people experience it worse than others. Some are asymptomatic, some are struggling. How are you feeling? Are you feeling all right?
Yeah, I'm asymptomatic, I've been told. I didn't know what that word meant, actually, Liam, but my kids told me. But basically, I feel absolutely fine. Like, I would not have even known. I wouldn't have had a test if my kids weren't going overseas and them just wanting to double-check because I'd been in Melbourne. So, yeah, I feel absolutely fine, mate, which is what the frustrating thing about this is.
Oh. I tell you what, Gus, it's not a big event that you're missing anyway. It's not as if it's your home test match, the SCG, it's an Ashes campaign. You're the voice of Australian summer. So it's not as if it's a really big event anyway that you're missing. So, yeah, just stay strong, mate.
Haddin with a sledge from the cheap seats. Oh, mate.
But in all seriousness, Gussie, you and the rest of the commentary team, I put it out on my socials when you got the moment when Scotty Boland knocked over Jimmy Anderson and we won the Ashes, and I was genuinely beyond stoked for you because I know how much you love the game and how hard you've worked at your commentary. So to see you get the moment and to call it as well as you did. Hats off to you. Let's look back on the game though, Hads, because I mean it was the name on everyone's lips, Scott Boland. This was just as good as a debut gets.
Well, it couldn't get any better. He's debuting in front of his home crowd. It's an MCG test match, Boxing Day. There's 50,000 there, and what a debut it is. And the scary thing is about it, he might not even play the next test, but what he did in Melbourne, he's an MCG specialist. That's why he was picked, and he didn't disappoint. But in your first test, you hope to contribute. You hope to get a wicket, you get a win, you sing the team song, and you just enjoy the moment. But to dominate a test match the way he did, destroy the heart of all England supporters, it was just an unbelievable debut and something that you love to see from someone who's waited so long to get the opportunity.
Yeah, Hads is absolutely right. I mean, it was just a magical moment. And I kept on trying not to speak too much through that spell on that third morning because the crowd was doing all the commentary for Hads, myself and Merv, who were just sitting there going, how good is this? Like, this is one of these magical moments that we may never get again. And to know that he may not play again in Sydney is just quite incredible. It shows the depth of our bowlers and, of course, you know, where he is in the pecking order. But that was certainly his moment. Everyone loved it. The crowd were right behind him. And for Hads and I to do it with Big Merv, and Hads said it many times in the commentary, you know, these are the type of receptions that Merv used to get all these years on. It was just a very, very special moment. And I know how much you love it, like I do, Liam, just being a part of things like this. It was really one of those very magic moments.
Yeah, I don't think there was a cricket-loving Australian who wasn't glued to their TV or their radio, whatever it was, on that final day. I want to get to the selection because the Scott Boland proposition Hads, I'm looking forward to your thoughts on it, whether he gets a chance, Joe Richardson, all the rest of it. But I think we got to talk about Marcus Harris as well, because this is a bloke who might have kissed goodbye to his test career had he not found some runs at the MCG, his home deck as well. It was a gritty 76, top score for Australia, but he's locked himself in now.
Yeah, I tell you who needs credit there is Australian selectors. And the one thing you can do, you can have a bit of freedom when you're winning the series, when you're 2-0 up, but to stick with him, give him the opportunity to play his Melbourne Test. And it was a gritty wicket. Steve Smith actually came out recently and said, I haven't seen a wicket seam as much as this one did at the MCG. So for someone like Marcus Harris, under pressure, to do what he did, top scored for Australia in front of his home crowd, they're the sort of innings that you get the confidence and it kickstarts your Test career. But a lot's got to go to captain of the Australian team, Paddy Cummins, who does everything right. So he'll pull all the right reins anyway. But to stay rock solid with him and the way he played under pressure was just great character to what this Australian team's building.
Yeah, there was a lot of people saying that he sort of missed out. If he'd got 100, then that puts the conversation to bed. But in the end, the 70-odd being the highest scorers of the match and the fact that everyone else struggled on that particular pitch, it showed that it was probably worth 100 in terms of his value to the Australian team. And the fact now that we've had some drama with Head and COVID and Khawaja now comes in, you probably think now he's absolutely sweet for the series and probably first cab off the rank for the first Test match when we go on tour.
Ed, I was going to say, how does Marcus go against spin?
Yeah, he plays spin reasonably well.
Okay.
He's got a game plan. He likes to sweep a lot and hit the ball straight down the ground over the top. But he'll grow with confidence with that innings. Okay. It's one of those innings where it's one of those defining moments in your career where all of a sudden you feel comfortable at that level, you feel accepted. And let's hope now his career takes off. The only thing I'm worried about with Marcus Harris is he's been all cleared with COVID. He was having lunch with Travis Head, but he had a road trip with Mitch Marsh. He went from Melbourne to Sydney. And I don't know if you watched the Test match documentary. If I had to pick one person in the world to go on a road trip with, I'm picking Mitch Marsh. So that's my only concern with Marcus Harris. How many did they stop in Albury? Did they stop at the Dog in the Tucker Box in Gundagai? It would have been a great road trip.
Oh, well, fingers crossed that Harris gets the all clear for the Test. And as you say, look forward to seeing his career on the up and up. I mean, I've been to Bali. I've seen bad tourists. This England mob is it's got to be in the conversation for the worst touring side that's come to our shores.
Well, it has to be. They're a very disjointed cricket team. And the scary thing about it for me is they're definitely in that conversation because they're not competing. Australia won the Ashes in 12 days. There was a lot of hype around the start of the series, as there always is, and the theatre around an Ashes campaign's enormous. But they just haven't competed. The selections have been disjointed. What happened in the first Test, no Broad and Anderson, in conditions that everyone around the world, except the people in charge, thought this is not the time to play them. You've seen little things in the media where the bowlers aren't happy with the batters. So, they're going to be in the conversation. And I think the one thing we want to see from England this Test match, we want to see 11 players stand in front of Australia and compete. Because at the moment, they're not competing. And that's the one thing in Test cricket that would drive you deep down if you're not competing with the opposition.
Yeah, couldn't agree with you more, Hads. And talking to the Barmy Army, talking to a whole lot of English mates of mine, supporters of the team, they don't mind getting beat. But they don't like seeing the fact they're not having a go, and that's right from the start from me. This series, the way they mucked up their two teams going into Gabba and then the Adelaide, the fact that they don't seem to be switched on in the field. One of those things that I picked up from you, Hads, over the last couple of Test matches is about attitude in the field. That's one thing that you can control, and the attitude's been really, really poor. And for people that just love the game and get up in the middle of the night and travel across the world and spend their life savings on watching the team, that to me is unforgivable.
Gussie, just out of curiosity, what happens to all those cashies that you had lined up for Sydney that you were going to be doing for the Barmy Army?
Mate, they're all gonski, brother. They're all gone. I've had to hand them over.
Well, did you get a call, Hats? I didn't get a call.
Mate, I didn't get a call, so he'll find some way to do them, Gus Worland. He'll take 25% off the top, whoever he gets them to.
No way we can afford Haddin. Let me give you the tip on that.
Well, you can afford me. My phone hasn't rung once.
But I thought you were going to Queensland, brother.
Well, yeah, I can delay the trip. The price is right. I can hold off. We can sit tight for a couple more days. Hey, let's look to Sydney. Let's talk about this Test. The Ashes is won. Hads, is there any risk of complacency with this Australian setup?
There shouldn't be. And the reason behind that is where this team's come over the last 6 months. We know there's a lot of pressure on Coach Justin Langer before the 2020 World Cup, that there was a lot of talk outside that things weren't right in the Australian team. The style of play that they played in the 2020 World Cup was outstanding. And what they've delivered here shows they're a happy team. So I think from the Australians' point of view, and knowing when you get into these situations, yes, it's great to win the Ashes. That they would have had a huge party. They would have enjoyed it like they should have with their family and friends. But to win 5-0 is a special feeling. I was lucky enough to do it in 13-14. And I tell you what, you don't get much better feeling than that in cricket, knowing that you've come out here, you've got the Poms, and you've just demoralised them for 5 tests in a row. And that's what it's about. This team's a hungry cricket team. So you heard Nathan Lyon talk about dead rubbers and what will we do with selections. And he just whacked it straight on the head and said, no way in the world. We're here to win this test match and dominate the next. And we want to create something that goes for a long time. This is their time to create their identity. And no way in the world this will be a dead rubber in Sydney.
Yeah, I think I absolutely agree with them. I think everyone is saying that, England can't play any worse. Well, Australia can play better. And the fact is we haven't had our top 11 on the field necessarily every test match. So the fact we've got depth is wonderful, but pick the best 11 and let's grind these bunnies into the ground.
Well, actually, speaking of bunnies, we better check in with G. Worland. Are you still happy with Cameron Green being in the Australian setup after the 3rd test, Gussie?
Oh, look, absolutely. I'm a massive fan of Green.
Oh, he's changed his tune.
No, you know what I mean. I've always wanted him to score runs, and he still hasn't proven that. But when you have someone like, I was able to speak to Josh Hazlewood on, I think, day 1 or 2 of the Melbourne Test match, and he said to me that, we said to the Triple M audience, that the most important member of the bowling cartel is Cameron Green. You go, okay, well, got to sit back and listen. Here, the fact that he can give the guys a break, the fact that they can circle around when Lyon obviously is doing his business at the other end. He's bowling 145. He's the quickest of them as a general rule, except for Starkey. So when blokes like that are telling you that, then, of course, all of us would love him to score more runs if he's going to be the all-rounder. But as Hads has said, and a few of the other commentators have said through this test series, if he can learn in the team rather than having to go back to club or state cricket, then we're in a really good spot. And that's what's happening at the moment. So let's keep it rocking and rolling and hope that he gets those runs to go with his amazing bowling.
Yeah, I think someone like Green, he's a long-term prospect for Australia. He's a class batter. We've seen that in Shield cricket, and he's finding his feet at the moment. But the good thing is we're a winning cricket team. A bit like Marcus Harris, you can afford to carry those guys for a while. But going back to what he does with the ball, they're using him to intimidate opposition. And you got Paddy, you'll have Josh Hazlewood come back. Starkey's been outstanding also this summer with the presence he's created out there, which adds another dimension to this attack. But they've used Green a lot to intimidate opposition, and that takes away Camo and all those guys can just play their role. And to have someone in your team that can bowl 145, he's 6'7", that can hit the middle of the wicket and intimidate, that's a huge role to play.
It's a bit how the Poms used to use Freddie back in his prime. You know, when they had Anderson and Broad bowling well to opening but then they'd bring Freddie in, and you would see the Australian batters, you probably know better than most ads, that it was a little bit of intimidation.
Yeah, 100%. And what he does, he intimidates, but he complements his attack so well. You've got Nathan Lyon, who takes a lot of the overs as well, can tie one end. And as I said, you've got the class of the big three, but the way he intimidates, it is a lot like Freddie Flintoff, and he'll get better. He hasn't grown into his body yet. When he gets stronger, we're going to see some really special spells from this kid.
Officially on the bandwagon, Gus Worland for the Cameron Green. Is that official now? Can we stamp him?
Absolutely. He's officially no problem at all because better judges than me are telling me that. But you cannot tell me that you don't think that he should score more runs. I mean, if you're going to be the all-rounder, you've got to be all-round. You've got to play bowler and batsman, not just bowler.
Yeah, I agree with you, Gus. He does need to start scoring more runs. And this has been a learning experience for him this test series. So he's just come in, he's fresh. But the one thing currency you do get in the Australian team is you've got to score runs. You've got to hold your position down at number 6. But if you do go Mitch Marsh, as I've just said, he's just come off a 3-day road trip, so he's not going he's going to be ruled out for just as long as you are of this test match.
For Cooper's Mild Ale, the best mid-strength beer that tastes like a full strength, this is Willow Talk, Liam Flanagan, Brad Haddin and Gus Worland. Let's talk about the Aussie side. Hads, I want you to make some bold predictions here. At time of recording, we still don't know what the lineup is going to be. We can assume that Harris and Warner, Labuschagne, Smith, that is set, right? Now work down from there, because Trav Head, we know, has been ruled out from COVID. Who takes that 5 spot?
I think the obvious choice is Usman Khawaja.
Right.
That's why he's travelled with the team. He's an experienced player, so he hasn't had a lot of game time, but he would have got himself prepared and ready to go. The only other way you could go in this test match is if the spinner came into calculation, but I don't think it would. But if they played a second spinner, Mitch Marsh could come into that option in that middle order. You played 2 quicks, 2 all-rounders and 2 spinners, but I don't think the surface will need 2 spinners. And our strength's been our fast bowling. So I think there's only going to be change with Khawaja. The third quick's the interesting one. Hazelwood fit, he comes straight in. But Jai Richardson's fit. So do you leave Boland in the team after what he did in Melbourne, or do you bring Richardson back, who was outstanding in the pink ball test in the second innings and was in front of Boland? My gut feeling, if Richardson's fit and ready to go, especially with overhead conditions, I'd pick Richardson. And tough call on Boland, but I'd leave him out if they're all fit.
Yeah, I agree with you, Hads. I think tough one on Boland, but I suppose he's taken his position. Everyone knows now that he's quality, and he'd obviously do a good job, not just at the MCG, but you've got to remember that Richo got a 5 for before he had to pull out for soreness. So isn't it wonderful now that we know we've got the backup rather than we just think we have the backup? And this Australian team and the bowling cartel's looking really strong moving forward. There's a few young blokes in there as well.
Let's just, we need to drill down on this for a second, Hads. You are talking about Scott Boland, who has delivered one of the most memorable Boxing Day performances. That is right up there with any performance we have seen on the MCG in a Boxing Day test, and he's done it on debut, and you're saying he does not roll into the SCG test?
He still might play. I'm not saying he's
but you're saying you wouldn't pick him.
Well, if Richardson's fit, or if Hazelwood's fit, I'm picking Hazelwood 100%.
Understandable.
But if Richardson's fit, he was chosen at the start of the series. I'd go back to Richardson. It's great what Boland did, and you know what? We're going to be a long, long time till we see a performance again like that. He was outstanding. And do you go with a player that's red hot, who's just come off an outstanding game, won it for his country? But to me, I'm going back to Richardson.
This is Gussie. This has got echoes of, was it Hodgie? Brad Hodge, who played a test match, scored a century, and then got dropped and was never seen in the Aussie test lineup again?
Well, I think he actually got a double 100 at the Wacker, but I actually spoke to someone about this before. He had come in for Mark Waugh, one of the absolute quality players that had played 100-odd test matches. So just having someone come in and do a great job, that's enough sometimes. It doesn't secure your future moving forward. So that, as far as I'm concerned, is what Hads has said, is that Josh comes straight back in. And you've got to remember, Boland wouldn't have even probably played if Richo had any soreness. He got 5 for in the pink ball test. So let's not forget that. That was only 2 weeks ago.
I love the theatre of these conversations around an Ashes because at the start of the summer, you don't know who's your best team, who's going to replacements. And this period right now shows we're doing the right thing in Australian cricket. You need 5 to 6 fast bowlers going to win big series. And we've seen that. We've seen Richo play. We've seen Nessa play. We've seen Boland have the debut that I don't think we're ever going to see again. But the depth we've got intimidates opposition. And that's the best thing we have at the moment. We've got good depth.
I picked up something there from Gus Worland. The idea of the pick player, this is Jai Richardson, who came on, performed really well, and then missed out because of injury. And then someone comes in, does an outstanding job, and Gus wants Richardson back in. Sounds a bit like someone who might be about to miss the Sydney test from a calling perspective and wants to make sure that come Hobart, the executive producer's got G. Worland back in the lineup.
Yeah, imagine if they call you in, Liam, for this test match. We know you're available for selection. You call all the big moments like Gus, and there's a debate.
I have my Scott Boland moment.
100%. So,
and,
how would that go, Gus?
Well, that would be terrible, of course. I'd like to say that Liam could easily join the commentary team, and I hope you do for Sydney if we're down on a few trips. But back in your effing box when it comes to Tassie, brother.
Well, it was interesting. I've just got a text message from Gus Worland, and then while we're on air, he said, "There's no way in the world Liam could ever take my spot. I'm class in big moments." So
wow.
that's how good a team we are here at the moment at Triple M.
We are locked in. We are locked in.
You're turning into Matty Johnson MG, you white
Hey, let's stick with the bowlers because the other conversation that's going on at the moment is Mitch Swepson. The Ashes is retained, and we're here now in Sydney on what is traditionally those 4th and 5th days at the SCG, a crumbling wicket that just brings all sorts of rewards for the spinners. Kerry O'Keefe's been speaking quite strongly on it in the media. Hads, do you think Mitch Swepson deserves a chance, or is this green top wicket that people are saying is out there going to rob him of the opportunity?
Mitch Swepson deserves a chance if the conditions suit. You don't want to just give someone a test match for the sake of saying, we've got to see what this kid can do. He'll be ready for test cricket. He'll get his opportunity in the subcontinent with Nathan Lyon. If they turn up, it's a really dry SCG wicket, and the spin's going to play a massive role from day 3 on. Then you consider you're playing Swepson. So he's done enough to warrant selection. He's the next spinner in if something happens to Nathan Lyon, but he only comes in if conditions suit. I'd like to see him play test cricket, partnering Nathan Lyon, not be the sole spinner in Nathan Lyon gets injured, because the leg spinner's role is to knock over the tail. So I don't think he'll play this test because the conditions won't suit.
Yeah, there's a lot of people saying at the moment, guys, we've won it 3-0. This is the opportunity just to give blokes a go. But you don't give away that baggy green cap that way, do you? Even though Swepson will play test cricket, like you say, he'll do that on tour. Let's pick the best 11 depending on the pitch. Let Paddy and Stevie Smith come up with that, and then we just go for the jugular. We're not just giving blokes games for the sake of it. That might happen perhaps in the one-day game, in the T20, when it doesn't mean quite as much, but not in test cricket.
Yeah, well, we'll wait to see. As I said, at the time of recording, the team has not been announced. All reports seem to indicate at this time that Hazelwood might not be ready to go, which again puts it into a Boland Richardson conversation for that other quick. Hads is backing in Richardson, Gussie's backing in Richardson, and then the Swepson debate seems to be dependent on the pitch. We'll wait to see how that one turns out. From an England perspective, we saw them ring a couple of changes for the 3rd test. Zach Crawley didn't do a lot. As an Australian who's loving seeing England be pummeled into the ground, I like seeing Bairstow out there. I think he's got a bit of what we would love to have in Australia. He's got a bit of fight in him. He looks up for the battle. There's some, pretty glaring looks between he and the Aussies at times. I like seeing him out there, Hats.
Yeah, he's got some energy about his game, and he wants to compete. And I think that's the only thing England need to look at this test match. They can make changes. They can look at their data and say, this guy needs a break, this guy's bowled too much. I'd throw that out the window. They just want 11 players this week that'll stand in front of Australia and compete. We don't want to talk about selections, and it doesn't matter at this time, because no matter the selection decisions they're making, they've got it wrong through the whole time. So they just need 11 blokes to stand out in front of Australia and compete. And I think the English, and talking to a lot of English friends, as you said too, Gussie, they just want a team that competes. They want something to stand up, look Australia in the eye and say, you know what, you might be better than us. You might have grind us into the dirt, but we want to see our team compete, and that's what they're missing. They're just not competing at all at the moment, and that's what Test cricket's about.
Yeah, I agree. Speaking to quite a few of the English journalists as well, I was surprised that the England A team had gone home, because they were here for the first couple of weeks of the tour. They've gone home now, so they can only really pick with who they've got. They went with Zach Crawley, looked okay, I suppose, but hard for him to come in after playing no cricket at all. Bairstow's been there and done it, I suppose, but what I don't understand is why so many good white ball cricketers don't have the energy when it comes to the red ball stuff, because that's the one thing that England have been really schooling the rest of the world in, is T20 and one-day cricket over the last couple of years. Their energy in the field and just being up and about, they just don't seem to have that. So like Hads has said, Liam, get 11 blokes to stand up and have that sort of energy for 5 days, and then they might have some sort of chance.
Geez, you'd give anything for Jay Archer to be running out at the SCG in a couple of days' time, wouldn't you?
Well, that's the one thing they've missed through the summer. They've missed genuine pace. That Wood at times have been really good, but he hasn't had enough partners. Anderson, we know, he's box office. Look at his statistics, but you need bowlers to complement your attack. If you throw Archer in there with Wood, Anderson and Broad, all of a sudden you've got attack that can intimidate Australia, can build some pressure with line and length. But I don't think it matters. I'm shocked that Ollie Pope's not playing, to be perfectly honest, because England need to find some cricketers that can play Test cricket for a long time. Yes, Johnny Bairstow gives them some energy. He's got a bit of fight in him, but he didn't get any runs.
Yeah.
And the one thing they need to do, they need to start developing players. And they talk a lot about their county system not developing Test players. Well, if you're not playing someone like Ollie Pope in a Test match, where are you developing him? So I would have had him in and let him develop in these next 2 Test matches and get some Test cricket under his belt in the pressure cooker of an Ashes.
Now, the one thing we can all agree on is that we hope rain stays away, because at the moment the forecast looks a bit sketchy. And the one thing we also know that happens, Gus, is at this time of year, when rain unfortunately consistently falls on the SCG, the Victorians pipe up, don't they? They like to get stuck into the SCG and the Sydney conditions.
Well, they do, because we're pork chops and go down there and blow up about their weather. But at the end of the day, I think there's been more Test cricket lost in nearly every state except Victoria. They get a bad rap in terms of their weather, to be fair. And, they came up with a really good pitch. The ground is amazing. The atmosphere that morning that Hads, myself and Merv had the pleasure of that last 20 minutes, half an hour, was quite incredible. Would we have had, I think it was nearly 50,000, it was well over 40. Would we have had that in Sydney? I doubt that. So I think we need to all step up. It's the pink test. We're going to do it from the McGregor Foundation. Buy your virtual seats. Get there as much as you can, and just get out there and support this unbelievably good Australian team, and let them know that we're all behind them. And I wish that Archer had played. I wish that they had picked a better team for the first 2 Test matches, or the right team for the first 2 Test matches. But it's been fun watching them getting smashed up, and it's been brilliant being part of this commentary team as well. I hope that everyone's been enjoying the fun that's coming out through the microphones, because that's certainly what we've been having in the commentary box for sure.
That sounds like Gussie, that sounds a bit like a retirement speech, mate. You're not done yet. You'll be okay. You'll bounce back. It's all right. We've got the 5th Test in Hobart to go.
Man, I'm still hoping to get this PCR or whatever test back negative, and I'll be in there for days 4 and 5. And then I remember, of course, we don't play day 4 and 5 anymore in Test series against England. So unless I get this test back real quick, and I'm going to be saying that I'm a frontline worker, so I can get this test match under my belt, I'm going to be gutted if I can't go. But at the moment, I'm a no-show.
Oh, fingers crossed, mate. And you make a very good point. This is the pink test. The McGrath Foundation has created an amazing legacy with Jane McGrath and Glenn McGrath and the work they've done. More than 3,400 individuals and families experiencing breast cancer throughout the country at the moment. There are virtual pink seats available. If you want to grab one and support this tremendous cause, then you should. pinktest.com.au. You can find out how you can buy a seat, get involved and donate, so that the McGrath Foundation can continue to provide these nurses and this care and these services to people who are suffering at the moment. So pinktest.com.au. Make sure you support it. It's a tremendous cause. Hads, the SCG is your home deck. You remember what it was like when you went out there for the first time?
Amazing. I know Scott Boland had his moment last Test, but to have your moment at your home Test match, you walk through the members, you can see your family in the corner of the eye, and you know how much it means to everyone. Everyone sacrificed a lot for you to play Test cricket when you're growing up, and to see your family and your friends there, your mates enjoying their time on the hill where it used to be with Yabba. It's just a great event. And I just used to love when I was wicket-keeping out there, just looking around the stadium, looking at the ladies, looking at the Barongal stand, and just saying, this is a privilege. It's an absolute privilege to play on the SCG. And as a young kid, yes, you thought about playing for Australia and New South Wales. I only ever wanted the opportunity to have a game at the SCG, and to call that home for a good part of 15 years was just a privilege.
Wow, it's going to...
You're much loved as well, Hads, and everywhere we go, Liam, Hads is like, hey, Hads. People just remember that style of the way that you used to play, and how positive you were, and how much you loved the baggy green, and you love that coat of arms on your heart. It's been brilliant to be a part of the commentary team with you, and I've loved what how sort of succinct you are with your comments, and just how real you are, and people just sort of get it. And I've got to say, Liam, I have played myself on the SCG.
Oh, righto. And
I played in a 2020 match, and I got 50 odd not out. I just wanted to mention that.
Right, and did you enjoy smashing your daughter's team around the park?
May as well have been. My daughter's team would have been better. But yeah, no, absolutely. It's just, I mean, I had my 21st birthday there. I've been a member there since my parents put me down when I was like 2 months of age. So, you know,
Can we just talk about you had your 21st at the SCG?
I did in the members area, yeah, and I had all my mates trying to have sex on the SCG to say that they could have it. And the security guards come in and telling everyone that they had to get off the field. But true story. Yeah, I think one of them got one away anyway. But it's a place that we call home as a Sydney Rooster fan as well. So it's not just the cricket. It's got a great tradition for the Swannies and for rugby league as well as cricket. So yeah, it's going to be great to see it this week.
Now, unfortunately, I cannot get the picture of Gus Worland and his mates trying to. Make some runs on the SCG out of my head, unfortunately. Hey,
Quick single, was it?
I think we're one short.
All right, before we disappear too far down that rabbit hole, we got to get out of here. This has been an absolute pleasure for Cooper's Mild Ale, the best mid-strength beer that tastes like a full strength. Here's what we're going to finish up with today. As Gus waits for his PCR test, fingers crossed. Hope the recovery goes well, Gussie. I want some big calls out of both of you gentlemen for this test, because I'll start it off and say that I think Pat Cummins will take 10 plus in this one test match. I think him for the first time as captain of Australia on his home deck. I think you will see it'll be clear cut that Pat Cummins is the man of this match.
I think Steve Smith will own this test match.
Ooh, Smithy.
Yeah, I'll be very surprised if they can dismiss Steve Smith in the first innings.
Oh, that's a good one, Gussie.
Yeah, I love that one. I'm going to go with Harris to get his maiden 100 and Warner to get 100 as well. So we're going to have a huge opening partnership after winning the toss and having a bat. We'll be known for 200 plus. So that'll be really nice.
Well, maybe all three happens. Who knows? And so no one tipping England for a win is safe to say.
Oh, my God.
Hey, as I look to producer Charlie, who's sitting out there controlling all this, are we going to be doing one of these between Sydney and Hobart? We are. Willow Talk will be back. I mean, it's the best cricket podcast you can get out there, I think, at the moment. We can agree. Gus, good luck with the PCR, mate. I'm hoping for a miraculous turnaround and that we see you behind the mic for your home test match. But if not, we will speak to you after the test before Hobart. Hads, a pleasure as always.
Yep, get well, Gussie. We need our captain back, just like we lost Pat Cummins with this this pandemic. We need our captain back.
I love your Hads. Thanks a lot. Thanks, Liam, and to all our listeners, thanks for the support, and let's go the Aussies.
For Cooper's Mild Ale, the best mid-strength beer that tastes like a full strength, this has been Willow Talk. We'll see you after the fourth test.